Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Super Talk. Excited to be here. My name is Jay Gonzalez, and I'm here with the producer of the Super Talk, Jake Berry, who is also our director for community information. We also have two special guests from Nicky Rowe High School. We have Mrs. Wanda Liperes, who's an emotional quotient specialist, and we also have Ignacio Negrete, who's an emotional quotient specialist, EQ specialist at McAllen High School. So in McAllen ISD, we focus on not only educating children with regard to academics and not only giving them experiences around fine arts and athletics and all these other arenas, but we want to make sure that we raise their emotional quotient. And that's why today's Super Talk is so compelling, because we have an opportunity to open up this conversation to the world and let people understand and give them a glimpse with regard to emotional intelligence and McAllen ISD. So we'll start with the question for Mrs. Perez. Mrs. Perez, if you would, as an EQ specialist, what's your involvement around just the whole concept of EQ?
Yes, thank you for having us here.
Yes.
Now, as we develop our curriculum, right, we work with developing our curriculum with Dr. Ben Tauschahar's Happier book, and we facilitate these lessons for our transition and prep teachers, which are ninth grade and 10th grade students. Now, we do that with a focus of emotional intelligence gear. Now, each gear, the components, the domains are self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. Now, what we do is we also provide staff development, right? Because if we don't have our teachers at the forefront, right, they're able to adapt to their needs and also help the students in the classrooms.
And when you talk about the high schools, just for parents out there, what courses, what grade levels, when are kids being exposed to emotional intelligence? Oh, and by the way, teachers are teaching emotional intelligence within their curriculum pre-K to 12. But what we're doing this year is we're taking a deeper dive in specific grade levels with specific classes, with specific teachers to make sure that before our kids graduate, that they take a deep dive in the area. So tell us about what grade level and what course.
Yes, and so McAllen ISD does a really good job about requiring a local requirement course. For freshmen, it's a transition class, and then in sophomores, they're also a prep EQ2 teachers. And they're able to embed the curriculum that we provide them into their BIM classes. And so they do this on a weekly class, and it's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for sophomores, and then for freshmen, it's usually on a Monday and a Wednesday.
And to all the parents out there and to all the students, was our way with regard to how we were hypothesizing as a group of professionals to say, how can we make sure that before a kid graduates that they have deep exposure to the 5 domains of emotional intelligence, and these courses that were just explained are graduation requirements. So before a kid walks across the stage in McAllen ISD, they will learn at a very deep level the importance of and skills toward raising their self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. And that's important to all of us, not only our students. As a matter of fact, we're trying very hard to raise the emotional quotient of the entire organization, all of our staff members and all of our students. So exciting times in McAllen ISD, and I'm glad that we can share this conversation with the world. Our next question is for Mr. Negrete. Why is emotional intelligence, why is it important to our students, sir?
Emotional intelligence, it's extremely important for the students. I'll give you 2 reasons why. The first reason is that it's going to help them become better persons in their personal life. So they'll be able to create better relationships with others. Noticing their emotions and noticing the emotions of others, that's one thing that we help our students learn through our lessons. So not only in their personal life, but also in their professional life, they'll be ahead of the rest of the population. So when we talk about emotional intelligence in our classes, we are actually preparing the students to be successful. And whenever there's going to be a need for a promotion, let's say, in their career, one of the first people that would more than likely get a promotion is a person that could get along well with others. And when we do with our lessons on emotional intelligence is having students understand their emotions, having students know how to regulate their emotions. So emotional intelligence now more than ever is really important for the classroom. The benefits it's going to have will be tremendous. And the small changes they make right now are going to make big differences in their future.
And that's exciting to know. I know that as an individual that's been with McAllen ISD for 25 years now, these are exciting times. For the last 6 years, we've been pushing hard on the emotional quotient, and we've been pushing hard to make sure that systemically we're raising everybody's emotional quotient. And to the parents out there, to all the audience out there, it is important. And if you haven't read the book Happier by Tal Ben Shahar, I highly suggest that book. It's a great read, and it's really it served as a catalyst for us with regard to the curriculum and how we're pushing this across the organization. And Mr. Negrete is spot on with regard to making sure that whether our kids go and get an associate's license, a certificate, a bachelor's, a master's, join the military, start a business, whatever it is. And to all the parents out there, some of you are doctors and lawyers and teachers and engineers and architects and business people, and it benefits all of us to be self-aware, to self-regulate, to motivate not only others but ourselves, to be empathetic and have social skills. So to know that we're doing this by design is something that I'm very proud of as a parent. And also, parents, get with your teachers, get with your teachers of record. And I know that on Fridays, teachers are sending out lessons so that parents can engage with their students on different components. Can you talk a little bit about lessons that are going out to parents that they can work with their kids on? Just there may be parents out there that don't realize that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll go ahead and give you some insight. So what happens is that on Fridays, this teachers, right, that the principal has designated to send out these assignments, and they're 5-minute little assignments, and they're all geared towards one of the domains. So say, for example, this week it's social skills. So they go home, they have the activity, and again, they could do it with a parent, an adult in the house, a grandmother, an uncle, and an aunt, and they can do these and practice them, and then they take it back to the classroom. So they're able to not only see the social skills or self-regulation, any adaptation into the home, and then you're right there spreading the wealth, right? So now you're taking our vocabulary and you're taking it home, and maybe those parents, they didn't know how to self-regulate. Right. They didn't know how to motivate themselves or practice social skills. So now you're taking whatever is being taught in the classroom, and then you're turning it into, a family event. And then that family event will go, to someone else, and then they just keep passing it on. So it's just like you said, you want to make the community become emotionally intelligent.
And that's exciting, especially nowadays where, a lot of times you go to a restaurant and you see a family of 5 sitting there at the restaurant, everybody's on their personal device. This is a perfect opportunity where you can use a lesson around emotional intelligence to have everybody put their devices down and have a conversation, a compelling conversation about self-awareness. Talk to your family, talk to your children about self-regulation, about motivation, about empathy, and about social skills. And as you do that, the natural phenomenon that will occur is that you're going to start looking in the mirror and saying, where am I around those particular domains? Because I can tell you in my position, I use these constructs on a daily basis, and you should too. I think that regardless of what walk of life you come from or what you do as a profession, we can all learn from raising our emotional quotient. That's why it's so important to us as a district that we raise the emotional quotient of our student body and our employees and ultimately the entire community so that we're all better for it. So exciting times in McAllen ISD. Our next question, what is the difference? Because sometimes you hear EQ, sometimes you'll hear EI, and I know EQ, we're making reference to the emotional quotient, and EI is actually emotional intelligence, but expand on that.
So emotional intelligence is, I would call them like the 5 pillars of who you are, knowing how to self-regulate, being self-aware, motivation, empathy, and social skills. So, that's the 5 pillars for emotional intelligence, and the emotional quotient would be how well you apply those skills on your daily life. So that, for me, that's the simplest way to explain it. The emotional intelligence is what you're learning, and the emotional quotient will be what score would you give yourself as you apply this in your daily life.
And that's important to know. And I think that some of the times we talk about the fact that we're working hard from an academic standpoint to raise the IQ, the intelligence quotient of individuals. So in McAllen ISD, we're working hard to raise the emotional quotient simultaneously. So we have kids that are book smart, and we have kids that are people smart. And there's a lot that goes into doing that. I think the more that you're a student of the game, then the less that you have to learn things the hard way. And life just has a way of doing that with regard to just the challenges that life will throw at you. And all the adults in the audience and everybody listening out there knows that life has ups and life has downs. So as we look at our little ones And even our teenagers, we know what they're about to face as they move on to the next chapter and the challenges that come with it. But it's also a beautiful journey if you have the right mindset, and that comes with a high emotional quotient. So this is something that is very, very exciting to us. And as far as anything that is upcoming, anything that parents should be aware about or students should be aware about with regard to emotional intelligence?
Well, I will tell you that we did come off from a very exciting emotional intelligence first ever, right, for the district. So that was nice. But now the second semester, right, we come up with, okay, what's the next thing? We got to keep this momentum up, right? You have the snowball effect. So our snowball effect for this one is we're piloting an EQ Academy. Now that EQ Academy is only for high school students for right now, and so all of the EQs, we have our own students that were selected by our counselors, and they can be 9th through 12th grade. And so these students are going to have weekly sessions, and there'll be 1 hour sessions, right? And it'll be, depending on the campus, it'll be a Monday, Wednesday, or a Friday, or even a Tuesday, Thursday. And they'll have sessions, and it's an extension of emotional intelligence, right? It's going to be hands-on activities as to, okay, what is it how can I become a better person with emotional intelligence, right? Because they see it in the classroom, they can see it on a wall, on a sign, but how are they actually, putting it to use, right? And so what happens is that this this EQ Academy is going to be for 8 weeks, right? It started this week, actually. So if any parent knows of a high school student that was already targeted and say, hey, come be a part of Academy, we send out permission slips, consent forms. It's going to go right before spring break. And it's going to be an awesome thing, right? And then another thing is that we're going to be presenters at our parent symposium that's coming up on Saturday, February 5th. And we're all going to be presenters on emotional intelligence. So one of them is going to be coping with stress and anxiety. And then another one is that we're taking we adapted from the Happier book is SPIRE model. And all this is tied to Dr. Bental Shohar's, and that's upcoming in our parent symposium.
So to all the listeners out there, all the parents, all the students, I hope that you see the evidence with regard to how important raising the emotional quotient of our entire organization is. We just need everybody leaning forward. We need everybody delving into the concept, also on their own time, because regardless of where you are on the spectrum of life, regardless of whether you believe you have a high emotional quotient or not, I think the good news is that we can all work on it. And the other fact is that the higher your emotional quotient is, then the more great things will start to happen in your life, whether we're adults or children. So we want to make sure that as we move forward, that we're all committed to it. If you have questions about emotional intelligence, the courses at the high school, the academies, anything or any ways that you can get involved as parents or community members, please reach out to us, because we know that we need to work as a team. We know that this is important, especially in today's times. You talk about having to self-regulate right in the midst of a world pandemic. You talk about the importance of being self-aware and staying motivated and looking through the lens of empathy and practicing our social skills. And in today's world, social skills go beyond relationships. It's also social skills on social media. So there's different ways to look at raising the emotional quotient. But the moral of the story is we got to work as a team to do it. And Jake, I know that you were doing a little bit of research, and I'll let you bring it home with regard to what the research says. And I know you looked at some of the work out of Harvard and what they're saying. And what did you find out, Mr. Berry?
Well, in a nutshell, emotional intelligence refers to the ability to identify and regulate your own emotions, to recognize the emotions of others and feel empathy towards them, and to use these abilities to communicate effectively and build healthy, productive relationships with others. So
And that's out of Harvard University.
Harvard.edu.
All right. So there you go. I think we know and we all understand the importance of the intrapersonal relationship that we have with ourselves and the interpersonal relationships that we have with one another. And the better relationship we have with ourselves as individuals, the better that we're able to regulate, the better we're able to get through life, then the stronger our relationships are with others. And that's just a fact of life. But it takes work. In McAllen ISD, we're going to put that work in, and we need your help. So hope you all enjoyed today's Super Talk, and we'll see you guys soon.